Welcome, everyone. It's lovely to watch you all come in your different ways, talking and munching and just enjoying the sanctuary space. Welcome. Everyone is welcome at UU. And you are perfect the way you are. Don't we know it? That's very comforting. Come on in, y'all. It's welcoming time. Come on. I got a sing-along for you to welcome us here to Earth Day. And Tressa, do you have words for us? Come sing along with me. Though below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companion, all ye kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on, greet the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Again, the wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Nice singing. Welcome.
Wow. That's the perfect way to start today's service. Thank you, Jory. It's a tradition. Good morning. Welcome, everyone. We're so glad that you've chosen to be here today. Unitarian Universalism is a liberal religious tradition that values freedom in religious thought and journey. We celebrate the interconnectedness of all life forms and affirm the universality of love and hope, and we journey together in community. Let's begin with a land acknowledgement to recognize the indigenous people who originally inhabited this land. We recognize the indigenous history and the land here in Fayetteville, and that this land is unceded. This land was the ancestral homelands of the Osage and Quapaw nations who lived on and cared for this land until white settlers drove them away. Today, we also recognize Earth Day, which is tomorrow, and is a day dedicated to environmental protection and love for our planet, our home. Earth Day serves as a reminder of our responsibility to care for the earth and all its inhabitants. And today we're so fortunate to have Dr. Doug Krueger with us to share our Earth Day message. We always enjoy Dr. Krueger's thoughtful, funny, meaningful messages, and we're certainly looking forward to today's. Dr. Krueger is a professor at the Northwest Arkansas Community College, where he teaches Introduction to Philosophy, Introduction to Ethics, and World Religions. He has also authored a book on the philosophy of religion. So we're grateful to have you with us. Thank you. At the UUFF, all are welcome, and not just welcome, but appreciated. We deeply value diversity and all that we can learn from each other about being human. We welcome you, whoever you are at this moment, and wherever you are in your spiritual journey. Some of us may feel strong today with minimal personal concerns, but I know that some of us are struggling today. In this community, all of us are welcomed and loved. May this sacred time and space be safe, encouraging, and meaningful for all of us. And may our togetherness help us be braver and more compassionate. Please do not hesitate to ask a greeter or an usher or anyone in leadership. We wear these like gold name tags, thanks to Fawn. But you can ask them if you're needing for any assistance about anything, or you just have questions, you want more information about UUism or our fellowship here. Also, if anyone is needing some hearing assistance, we have our wonderful David over here, who is our AV tech, who can be of assistance if that's needed, so just let him know. And you can fill out a visitor card if you'd like to. There's some in the seat backs in front of you, and then we also have some out in the foyer area. If you'd like to be added to our e-newsletter. And we're going to have time later in the service for joys and concerns, and you can fill out a yellow joys and concerns card. They look like this. They're in the seat back in front of you. And you can mark on there whether you want to share your joy or your concern, or whether you'd like to keep it private and just share it with leadership. And some of you are joining us from Facebook, and we're so glad that you are, and we welcome you. And you can share your joys and concerns in the chat function if you'd like to. But just note that we don't have a way to keep those confidential if you share them there. And I invite you to turn off any noisy devices that you might have with you. And also, we always want everyone to know that humans of all ages and children and everyone are welcome in our services. And if someone is wanting to step out, or they've just had enough, you can go out into the lobby. We also have a wonderfully staffed nursery downstairs that's available during services. So let me see. I lost my place. Okay, so the last thing I have is I have a couple of quotes for you to get us in the heart space of just revering our earth today and recognizing Earth Day in this time. So the first one is from Neil deGrasse Tyson, and it says, "If every day were Earth Day, we wouldn't be in the mess we're in." And then one from Carl Sagan, which says, "Preserve and cherish the pale blue dot the only home we've ever known. So, and now I believe that Jean is going to come and light the chalice for us.
We're not doing opening words, so. One of our traditions is to light a chalice during our service to represent the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of commitment. And so I invite you to say these words with me as we light our chalice. Love is the spirit of this community, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in truth, and to help one another. Thus do we covenant together. And now Stephanie has a wonderful story for us. Time for all ages. The hymn is scheduled after. Do you want to? We could do an audible. We cannot vary from what's.
By popular demand. I got some feedback last week that the pictures were a little hard to read, or a little hard to see, so I'm going to ask that we get the lights up front to make sure people can see the illustrations good. This book, if you've ever heard, has anyone ever heard of Rachel Carson? Okay, so I was an English major. I knew her as an author, but I didn't know very much about her story. This is a really cool book about her. It is called Spring After Spring, How Rachel Carson Inspired the Environmental Movement, and the author is Stephanie Roth Sisson. Let me see. Boop. You can hear birds outside, perfectly timed. They're doing their part. Thanks, birds. It was dawn when the chorus began. Rachel did not want to miss a note. Just think about all those happy bird sounds that you hear. Sometimes we take them for granted, and sometimes it's like, okay, we get it enough. But it really is a pretty sound. I can't imagine the world without it. As the midday sun warmed the earth, other musicians chimed in. Life and music were all around. Maybe today set an intention to pay attention to those noises we hear, sounds we hear, music we hear in the morning and in the evening. And wonders big and small. I'm not going to call them out, but we have a residential ant expert amongst the kids, and he is teaching us so much about ants. Kids are they're very cool in how they notice those little things. They're tuned into that, sometimes more than we are. Spring was Rachel's favorite time of year. As the sun set, she could hear the first bubbles of frog song. Crickets began their nighttime tune, and bats squeaked a lullaby. At home, there was a warm supper and a big family. Mom played the piano, and Dad sang songs and read stories. Rachel's favorites were those about the sea. Does anyone else here have a special interest in the ocean? Pretty cool. As the days grew longer and warmer, the chattering, chirping, and hooting got louder. We have lots of those things in Arkansas. Lucky us. until the gathering calls from migrating birds meant that it was autumn. They were coming together for their long journey through the ocean of air to their wintering homes. And I'm hearing them returning right now. You hear those geese coming back. But not everyone left. And I love this picture because I always forget which animals hibernate and which ones. But this is a really neat picture. I mean, we just don't know what's under the ground, do we? So cool. Snuggled under a warm blanket, Rachel drew pictures and wrote about the life she experienced all year. Did I say snuggled? Snuggled, sorry. I mean, depends on the blanket, maybe snuggled. She read books about animals and imagined what their lives were like. Spring after spring, year after year, the birds arrived. Every season, Rachel watched, listened, and wrote. And like the nestlings, she grew quickly. And then one autumn, it was time for her to go off to college. She was sure she wanted to be a writer until... Has anyone ever looked through a microscope and been fascinated? She looked through a microscope and saw a small world in a drop of water, tiny sea plants and animals, and Rachel was amazed and in love. She wanted to know more. She wanted to know more about the very small world made visible by a microscope. She had never been to the ocean and was scared to go in the water. She had never been in the ocean. Isn't that cool? To learn about the creatures in tidal pools and marshes and the sea, Rachel decided she would study biology, and she put her writing to the side. After she finished school, Rachel worked as a scientist, and she compiled information about the ocean. Now, for her job, she wanted to know what it was like to actually be underwater. She was still scared, but she went anyway. In the fish world, many things are told by sound waves, she wrote. Rachel began to write books about the sea. They were so full of scientific detail and vivid descriptions of the lives of sea creatures that people could imagine those worlds. And this was before the internet, so pretty cool. Rachel became a famous author. But there was something wrong. All around, nature's voices were going quiet. So Rachel did what she did best. She watched closely, listened carefully, and learned as much as she could about what was happening. Rachel put together scattered facts, and she found the answer. People wanted to kill bugs that ate their plants, bothered them, and sometimes even made them sick. Chemists created new poisons to solve the insect problems that seemed to work and seemed to be harmless to other creatures and humans. These poisonous chemicals were quickly used everywhere in huge amounts because people thought they were safe, but Rachel found evidence that the poisons were not safe. Rachel wrote a book to tell people what she had learned. Silent Spring created a huge ruckus. Some people were inspired to change, but many didn't believe Rachel. Eventually, President Kennedy took notice and began an investigation to find out what was true. Rachel was asked to come to Washington, D.C. and defend her book. She was scared, but she went. Rachel's testimony in Washington and her writing in Silent Spring made people see that they have an effect on the environment and the other creatures that they share the world with. People were inspired to speak up. Congress passed new laws so nature was treated with more care, and some of the most harmful chemicals were banned. Spring after spring, year after year, people celebrated the earth and the environment because Rachel showed them how beautiful and precious it is. But Rachel went home and continued watching and listening. In the morning, she went out among the tide pools and gathered specimens. In the afternoon, she carefully studied them and took notes on her observations. And in the evening, when the tide had gone out again, she returned each creature with great care, exactly in the spot she had found it, exactly where it belonged. In nature, nothing exists alone. Rachel Carlson. Thank you.
Let's sing now. Rise if you are able and willing, and I will tell you that if you're following along in the hymn, I put a breath after every line. I just needed a breath. So it seems intuitive if you're reading it, but not if you're following the hymn. Just take a breath after every line, and it's in 3/4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Here it comes. We are not our own. Earth forms us. Human leaves on nature's growing vine. Fruit of many generations. Seeds of life divine. We are not alone. Earth names us. Past and present peoples near and far. Family and friends and strangers show us who we are. Therefore let us make thanksgiving, and with justice willing and aware, give to earth and all things living liturgies of care. Let us be a house of welcome, living stone upholding living stone, gladly showing all our neighbors we are not our own. Thank you. You may be seated.
As a community of people that care about each other, we share our joys and our concerns with each other. And it helps. So we invite you to share your ups and downs as you desire. We talked about this card. You can come up to the front here in a bit and drop a stone for any joy or concern, shared or confidential, expressed or held in your heart. And as you drop your stone, may you experience the spreading of love and support as we share those. So if you did fill out a card, you can bring it to me here in a bit. And on the card, just indicate whether you want it to be confidential or not. And if you're attending virtually, we want to hear about your joys and concerns too that you want to share. Those won't be confidential. So I think we can start now. Do we want to do drop-in of the stones? I think, Jean, you're going to help me with that, right? Okay. these all may be shared. Let's see. Drop lots of stuff. Just dump the bowl. No, okay. All right, so why don't we just take a moment of silence with all of those deep concerns and the ones that you all have that you just didn't want to share today, because we all have concerns right now in this world. And also to celebrate those joys shared and kept to our hearts. And I think it's a good idea to take a deep breath and a nice slow exhale. The next we're going to have is the offering. The offering is a sacrament of the free church. It is supported by the voluntary generosity of all who join with us. The offering will now be given and received in grateful appreciation for our shared hopes and our shared values. Now, Dr. Krueger is going to come and share a message with us.
Okay, well, folks, I have a great set of informative little tidbits to share with you today, and it's centered around Earth Day. And let's see if my slideshow, oh yeah, there it is. Okay, so tomorrow, you know, is Earth Day, 4/22. But I think that every day should be Earth Day, because after all, that's the planet we're most familiar with, and happens to be, coincidentally, it's my favorite, right? So of all of the 8, some people want to say 9, I like this one. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the origins of Earth Day. And then I'm just going to throw in, you probably know I'm big on lists of things to do and suggest and all that. So I got a few things at the end as to how we can, every day, help the environment. So In 1970, let me tell you, folks, I was around then. Some of you were as well. The environment was in trouble. Oh, things were not looking good. Littering was a big thing that people used to be concerned about, and to some extent, we still are. But people used to think that if you were driving down the road and you had something you wanted to get rid of, you could just throw it out the window of your car, right? People did that all the time. I was in cars where people were just, done with this, and they would just throw it out the window. And so, yeah, that was a very visible sign of how people thought of the environment. Of course, not all people, but a lot of people. So litter will define as to scatter rubbish in a disorderly fashion. That's my definition. And yeah, littering was out of control. And so an organized campaign was created to fight littering. Some of you may remember that there was this one fellow that appeared in commercials as they called it the Crying Indian commercial. That was the name of the thing that it was known as. And he wasn't a Native American, and he wasn't crying. He was actually an Italian American who, Espera Oscar de Corti, he changed Corti to Cody, and he called himself Iron Eyes Cody, and he got a lot of work in Hollywood. He was like in 200 movies and TV shows. Yeah, with John Wayne and Bob Hope and all kinds of famous people. And to his dying day, he swore that he was Native American, but he wasn't, yeah. So, what, TV lied to us? Yeah, well, I hate to break the bubble, but, okay. Air pollution. Wow, this was in another degree of bother back then. Here's a picture of New York. There in the corner. Here's Los Angeles, Cleveland, Ohio. I mean, we had all kinds of horrible things going on with the air, people getting sick, irritants in the air, and so forth. So, yeah, that was a big deal. People wonder, what are we going to do about this? Because we can't get rid of our cars, right? You know, and what to do? Well, yeah, that was on people's minds. The air is not safe to breathe. The water, yeah. So our rivers were used as dumping grounds. And here's a famous picture of an oil slick in the Cuyahoga River in Ohio, near Cleveland. And it caught fire multiple times over the years because there were some refining plants and things like that there. And every once in a while, the river would just be on fire, right? And yeah, this was the 1969 fire. It wasn't the biggest one, but that was the one that got people's attention. It was perhaps in the news a little bit more than some of the previous ones. And in fact, some of you may be familiar with Randy Newman. He wrote a song about this to highlight the way that people were looking at the environment. It was called Burn On, and it was about that fire. He says that the Lord, about the river, the Lord can make you tumble, the Lord can make you roll, the Lord can make you overflow, but the Lord can't make you burn. And that's what humans can do, right, with the river. So, well, how did Earth Day start? Well, one of the big catalysts was this Santa Barbara oil spill. And here's some pictures of the water, the oil spilling. It was from an offshore oil well platform. And there were people cleaning up. And it was, still is, one of the biggest oil spills in U.S. history, 4 million gallons. And the oil got onto the U.S. coast and covered Santa Barbara Channel and spread from Pismo Beach all the way to Mexico. So lots and lots of oil. This was all over the news. One of the things that made these kinds of things be the catalyst for Earth Day is we had news coverage like never before at that period. And so, yeah. So this Wisconsin Senator Gaylord Nelson, So he wasn't from California, but Wisconsin. He had been interested in doing something about how we were treating the environment. He went to California. He surveyed the Santa Barbara disaster, and he says, we need to organize and do something, okay? So one of the things he thought was people need to be educated. They just don't know that how they are affecting the environment. And so he decided, well, I'll put together some people, and he said, how should we do this? Well, at that time, the Vietnam War was still going on. And he thought, those protests are always in the news. Those protests are informing people. Maybe he thought I should model our clean up the environment types of protests and information, like what a lot of them college students were doing in protesting the war. So back then, they used to call these little informative sessions teach-ins, right? There was a teach-in, and that was kind of a phrase they would use. You don't see that nearly as much anymore. But there were also die-ins, where people would act as if they were killed by a nuclear disaster and things like that, or some other thing. That's why there was a show called Laugh In, right? It was whatever in was the phrase, right? And so he said, we're going to have teach-ins around the country and teach people about how they're treating the environment. Well, so he, let's see, is this, yeah, here we go. Whoops. I think I'm pressing the, yeah, okay. So he convinced anti-war activist, this guy Dennis Hayes, to drop out of Harvard, believe it or not. Can you just leave Harvard that you worked so hard to get into and just help with this unknown thing that I want to do and organize people about the environment? And believe it or not, Hayes said, okay, right? Let's do it, right? And so he was asked to coordinate these teach-ins. And when word got out that they were going to have these things, this one fellow, outdoor lover, but advertising expert named Julian Koenig, just showed up at their offices and said, hey, what can I do to help? I know about advertising. Now, Koenig was already a very experienced advertiser. He's the one that did the Timex takes a licking and keeps on ticking. Some of you remember those commercials. He's the one that put together those commercials. He also did the famous Volkswagen ad campaign of Think Small, where they had a big poster with a lot of empty space because there's a little car in the corner, the Volkswagen Beetle. So he was really good at advertising. So Hayes said, well, if you want to help, can you come up with some promotional material for this event? And Koenig came up with several ideas, all getting rid of the teach-in name. He said, the teach-in thing is overdone. Let's call it something else. He said, we can call it Ecology Day, Environment Day, Earth Day, E-Day. So he wanted to have day in there somewhere. And, well, which name should he choose? Well, he said, I like Earth Day. Why is that? And I wanted April 22nd, he told Hayes. Why? Because his birthday was April 22nd of a Koenig. Yeah. And he said, I like the way that birthday rhymes with Earth Day. So that's how we got, that's it. That's how we got April 22nd. Because it was his birthday and it's Earth Day, right? So that's why I had, happy, there he is. Happy Earth Day to you. There we go. So they went ahead and went with that. And they had the ad campaign, and they gathered together money and got a full-page ad in the New York Times. This was before the first Earth Day. There's this advertising it. January 18th, 1970 is when the ad came out. And they said, among other things, in that little ad, on April 22nd, we start to reclaim the environment we have wrecked. Okay. Earth Day is a commitment to make life better, not just bigger and faster, to provide real rather than rhetorical solutions, and so on. So notice on the little ad there, it looks like a coupon, and you were supposed to clip that out and send it in with however much money you want to donate, right, and so forth, and then say, give your contact information so you can help. So word got out. It was going to be April 22nd. And then people started writing in, and they wanted to know how they could help. Letters poured in about the upcoming Earth Day. Now, interestingly, so this guy Hayes that had been hired here, he noticed that most of the letters were not coming from the people they thought would be sending the letters. They thought it was going to be a bunch of these college students that were protesting the Vietnam War, and they thought, well, you know, they like protesting, I suppose, and so they're gonna want to help with this thing, right? But it turned out they weren't the ones writing in mostly, right? Because in between protesting the Vietnam War and taking a bunch of drugs and streaking, right? Their plate was full, right? This was the 70s, right? And so the ones that were writing in turned out to be mostly from women raising kids at home because they wanted a better future for their kids, right? And they said, we don't want to hand them over a planet that looks awful, looks like a garbage dump. And K through 12 teachers, who, by the way, at that time were mostly women also. So it was the women that wanted to help out, right? They're the ones that got, there we go, that got Earth Day really propelled into a movement. And so Hayes shift the focus from, okay, well, I guess we're not doing the college campus thing. We're going to try to do community organizing in other ways. And that shift in focus worked very well. So, okay. Well, so then they had the first Earth Day, and it was very successful. They had 85 events across the country, and they were, many of them, very, very well attended. In fact, on the Earth Day website, it says by their count there were approximately 20 million Americans that showed up at these different events across the country. They took to the streets, parks, auditoriums, and so forth, and that continues to be the largest secular day of protests in history so far. So lots of people did that. So big, big success. So, you may be wondering, on the heels of that tremendous success back in 1970, what can I do to help the environment? Now, I know this very well-educated and tuned-in crowd knows all kinds of different ways to help the environment. So I decided, well, if I'm going to give you a list of, a few things you can do to help the environment every day, maybe I'll pick something a little out of the way. So maybe some of them not so far out of the way. But here we go. We've got a few things. First, oh, yeah, I know. Some of you are saying, what? Where's the exit? No, wait a minute. Well, hear me out. Okay. Eat less meat. And it doesn't say no meat. But, yeah, it turns out that you don't have to eliminate meat from your diet to help the planet. But, yeah, the dietary shift toward plant foods and away from animal products is vital for promoting the health of our planet, because it turns out that, these cows, yeah, they produce a lot of methane, right? I don't know if you knew that, but if you've been around cows, you probably knew it. Yeah, that's the second biggest source of methane that we have on Earth, and it's just cattle, because we eat so much meat. So you just eat a little bit less meat, they'll grow a little bit less cows, and we'll have a little bit less methane. And if a lot of people do that, then it'll be a lot less methane. So just even switching from beef to pork or chicken will be a good step. Yeah. So I went to a presentation over at the U of A a few years ago, and this one environmentalist was talking to people about global warming and so on, and how it wasn't an illusion and so forth. And somebody asked him, I don't know if it was me, but somebody asked him, what about going vegan and not eating meat and so forth? He says, well, we don't like to tell people that because they don't like to hear it. But so I don't say going vegan, just eat a little bit less, and that helps. That helps. Just eat some chicken or something. So there you go. Bike more often. Yeah, right here in Northwest Arkansas, we have gosh, what is it, 300 miles of bike trails in northwest Arkansas. We got a lot of bike trails. We have a greenway that goes from Fayetteville to all the way to Bella Vista, I think. So, yeah, very nice. In fact, it goes right into the campus where I teach up in Bentonville. So bike more often. You don't have to, again, you don't have to go total carless and so forth, although I know some people that are. You just bike a little bit more often. Data from the Bureau of Transportation says in 2021, more than half of all trips were less than 3 miles, which most people can bike several miles. And you know what? Right here in Fayetteville, they have those rent-a-scooter, rent-a-bike, things like that are electric, and you just have to use your credit card or something. You get the app, and you get on these things. They take you where you want to go, and then when you're done with it, you just apparently just leave it on the side of the road. Is what I see around town, and that works, you know. And then the people that own these things, they come. I've seen them with big trucks, and they recharge them and put them back out on the street, and then you can use them again. This is great stuff. Great stuff. So an added bonus, you know what? It makes you happier to bicycle because exercise makes you happier. Yeah. I looked up a study that says mood enhancement persists for up to 12 hours following aerobic exercise. So just that's on the bicycle. If you do the scooter thing, well, you get a little bit of exercise trying not to crash, you know, by shifting your weight. But on the bicycle, you get a little more exercise. That's helpful. Believe it or not, keep your refrigerator well stocked, right? Well stocked, because that uses less energy. Okay, the coldness of the items in the fridge helps keep the other items cold as well. And and if you don't have a lot of food to put in there, just put in jugs of water or something, right? You don't even have to drink the water. Just keep the thing full of stuff, and then that uses less energy, right? Simple thing you can do to help the planet. Fully insulate your home, right? How is this a daily thing? Well, because you use your home every day, right? So you heat it, you cool it. But most U.S. homes are under-insulated. If you don't believe me, ask any insulation company. They'll tell you. Yeah. So most people heat their homes in the winter, cool them in the summer, and some electricity providers will insulate your house for free. Okay, because you may be wondering, how much is this going to cost me? Well, one time I went to an electric car show, and SWEPCO was there, and they said, hey, you may need some more insulation in your home, right? I said, well, how much is this? They said, oh, how much? It's free. They said, we'll come to your home, and they said they would do attic insulation, give me LED bulbs, duct sealing, high-efficiency shower heads, air sealing wall insulation, advanced power strips for free. And I said, that sounds pretty good. Yeah. And if you're not with that electric company, find out about the one you're with. They may do that. And I said, I was, of course, Mama Krueger raised me to be very suspicious of people. And so I said, oh, wait a minute, why are you doing this for free? They said, well, it's better than having to build another power plant, right? That's why. And I said, oh, okay, yeah. They might be being generous then. Maybe that's what they're doing. So, that will help the planet, and it will save you money at the same time. So it's a win-win situation. And then finally, I just came up with 5. Use a power meter. Right? A power meter, what is that, you ask? Well, a power meter is because many of our household devices waste power, right? In fact, some of them use power even when they're off, right? These are called the energy vampires, right? And these are even more scary because these take your money. And so you have these things on. If you have a bunch of them throughout the house and they're always using energy even when they're off, that adds up, right? So a power meter is a device that you plug your device, whatever in the house, plug it into that thing, and then it will tell you how much energy it's using, whether it's on or off. You just test it. And so now you're probably wondering, well, where can I get a power meter? Well. Some of you may know the fellow pictured right here, Daryl Henschel. He's the local piano technician. And I believe he tunes this very piano right over here. And so he's really big on using power meters. And he's also big on solar energy. He's got some solar panels on his shed in the backyard. And he just did 100 megahertz watts. Yeah, there we go. Something like that. And so, which is a lot. And he has generated that in 7 years, so he's doing really well. And in fact, he's the local expert too on solar power and solar panels. And if you have someone approaching you trying to sell you some solar panels, there's good folks that do that, and there's some not so good folks that do that. You want to talk to Daryl. He will, for free, speaking of free services, he'll come with you to the little meeting with the salesperson, and he'll evaluate, run the numbers, do the statistics and all that, and figure out whether it's a good deal. This guy is fantastic. He has sold over, like $200,000 worth of solar panels in the past few years. By sold, I mean, he told people this is a good deal. He told many others, you're getting ripped off. You don't want to do it. So choose wisely. But he has donated to the UUFF here 2 power meters that I've been told they can keep here at the UUFF, and you can check them out like a library. Go home, measure your appliances, bring them back, and then somebody else will do it as well. So you want to know where to do a power meter? Right here. So thank you, Daryl. Thank you, Mr. Henschel. That was fantastic. So, yeah, there he is. And use the power meters, and that will make him very happy. So, there he is. All right. Well, thank you very much, folks.
Hymn for you all, and it reminds me of Earth Day because the tune is like climbing a mountain. You go up and then down and then up and then down. So please stand up if you're willing and able and sing along. It's also in a 3/4 time if you're musically inclined. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Touch the earth, reach the sky, walk on shores where spirits fly, over the ocean, over the land, our faith the quest to understand. Touch the earth, reach the sky, children ask the reasons why. In our lives the answers show, and by our love they learn and grow. Touch the earth, reach the sky, all are born and all shall die. Life is the time that's left in between, to follow a star, to build a dream. That's it. Isn't that beautiful? Thank you for singing. You may be seated. To follow a star, to build a dream.
I invite you to say these words with me. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
got some announcements and some Earth Day related announcements as well. Every second and fourth Monday of the month, Yoga with Sherry, downstairs, right here. Wednesday, April 24th, the Space Team Committee is going to meet. They're doing some really awesome work. Leanda chairs that. 6 p.m. And then every Thursday, 10 to 12, the grounds crew is working. It's a beautiful time of year to be on the grounds crew and to help out the grounds crew. And Sunday, April 28th, we're going to have choir rehearsal for the 11 a.m. service. That's going to be at 10, the rehearsal. Those are fun. One day I'm going to do that too. One day, yeah. And then that same day after the service, the Web of Life May Day service rehearsal and setup. And today, this is not a UU related thing, but the Botanical Gardens of the Ozarks is having a big Earth Day festival from 3 to 6. Sounds like it's going to be a good time. And a lot of different organizations, that are environmentally minded and into sustainability and all that good stuff will be there. So it'll be fun. Oh, and there's live music. And then on the 25th next week, I know about another event next Thursday evening from 6 to 7:30 at the Fayetteville Public Library. Dinah Nash and the local Green Team organized this event. I'm on it too, it's true, but Dinah organized it. It's awesome. And the event is called Climate Change Solutions and Resilience. And we'll be there and others. And people are going to get into circles and just talk, about their concerns with various, members from the community there to kind of lead those discussions across different things, including plant-based diets and psychological resilience in the era of climate change, and a lot of other good stuff, the environmental scientist. So, any other announcements? Yes.
So I do want to say that I have petitions for 5 of the initiatives that we're trying to get on the ballot in the fall. I only have Washington County, I don't have Benton County, but anyone who has not had an opportunity to sign those yet, I'll be out in the line.
Wonderful. Yes?
What was the event you just said from 6 to 7:30 at the library?
Oh, it's called Climate Change Solutions and Resilience, and it's on Thursday night, the 25th, from, yeah.
That's the same.
In your weekly email, sorry.
Oh, sorry. What's that for?
It'll be in your weekly email, Justice Spotlight.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
In the support group, we were meeting at the same time at the library, but I was meeting there at 5.
Oh.
To come by on 405 and find out about it. It's autistic support group.
Oh, wonderful.
Chronic health problems.
Okay, this is a support group happening at the same time as the climate event, and it's also at the library. Is that right?
In room 405, and I'll just go early, so if anyone is interested and wants to talk about it, I can just be there.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. And that's in room 405. And what's the name of it again?
Autistic Self-Advocacy NWA.
Autistic Self-Advocacy NWA. Right on. Okay. Thank you, Dee Dee. Yes.
My name's Taylor. I'm from the Center for Sexual Assault. I just wanted to come today and say thank you to the entire congregation for the recent donation you all made from Survivor Services. You've really gone above and beyond for the community. I just wanted to come out and see what you guys were all about and say thank you. Also, I want to add an event that's coming Saturday. We'll have a family dog walk called Paws Off at Walker Park. We also have dog adoptions, a canine agility show, just a really fun community building day to celebrate.
You're welcome to come up here and tell everybody that if you want. Or was everybody able to hear her okay? Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much for being here. Just tell me again the details of the event, the pause.
It's called Paws Off. It's April 27th
Pause off April 27th
from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m.
from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m.
at Walker Park in South Fayetteville.
at Walker Park in South Fayetteville, and that event benefits
The Center for Sexual Assault.
the Center for Sexual Assault.
It's a dog walk with other dog games.
How fun. A dog walk with games for families and dogs. Yay. Thank you. And tell us your name again.
My name is Taylor McKinney.
Taylor McKinney. Thank you so much for being here. I guess we're all going to hang out now.
All right, thanks, Joe. I'm just going to play us out with Blue Boat Home. Thank you so much for making every day Earth Day.